Word for both of them is Shastra, because we do Shastra Puja. We don't say Astra Shastra Puja, right? So Shastra is the common word for both.
सर मंडल का शाब्दिक अर्थ क्या है?
Okay. There is the root word manda. Now, one meaning of manda is a covering, from which you have mandan, that I expand my argument. After khandan, I do mandan. And I do mandan because it is like a roof. It is something which protects me. It is a cover. But
From that mandap also.
yes, something which protects the manda is mandapa. So if you put some poles underneath it, then it becomes a mandapam, right? But mand means is to make a little expanse, and this is exactly what you are doing here. You are doing this in a defined or a constricted space. You are going to move in a constricted space to throw a weapon. So that is why it is called a mandala. And then mandal, there are various kinds of mandalas, and the concept is used in different disciplines and in different shastras. There is the puja mandal, then the mandal itself in what is called, there is a whole science of making mandalas.
Yes.
And then it becomes a space in which you do a particular painting, and then how you use it in a certain sadhana, that is called a tantra. So mandala therefore is used in many contexts, but basically it means a kind of a space which you occupy for a specific purpose. A grammarian may be able to give more definitions. I am not one. I mean, mandapa, pa, if you put pa at the end, then that means protects. La means that it is something to do with softness. The word lal, lovely in grammar that is used. So this is the definition in the 11th chapter of what is called mandala. Then we come movement on the stage, how the actress or the actor is going to make a movement on the stage. What would be that movement? And that is called gati prachara, which is the subject of the 12th chapter. You see, when he begins the 12th chapter, then he once again refers to what he has done in the 11th. Evam vyayam sanyoge karyam mandala vikalpanam. That in the context of vyayam, vyayam here means exercises done for war activities. Here vyayam means that we have done this vyayam, and in this vyayam we have used the various mandala. Ataha param pravakshayami gatistu prakritisthitah. That is how gati is to be used now. This is what he says. Now, this gati is in whom? In a prakriti. What is the meaning of the word prakriti here? Prakriti sthitah. Prakriti here means a character. Yeah, this is the meaning of the word prakriti here. Character. In a character, prakriti sthitah. What is the movement in a particular character? This is called gati prachara. Now, you see, examples of these things can only be given. Huh? Is there somebody who can do Gati Prachar, show Gati Prachar?
We have in the Kuchipudi form, the Gati for every character, because you said
Yeah, that is what we are going to talk about. But if there is somebody, then if there's somebody who could show, but verbally is what we can talk about here. He says that at what point do we use Gati Prachar? He says, Tatra upavahanam kritva bhandavadya puraskritam yatha marga asaritopetam prakritinam praveshane. You have done certain preliminaries when we talked about the Purvaranga, which is the 5th chapter. You know, I made a mistake today in enumerating. In the 5th chapter, in the Purvaranga, then when that is done, concluded, then the proper play begins. And this is when the characters appear on the stage. So, he is going to describe Karya Pravesha Patranam Nana Artha Sambhavaha. And this is done after he once again refers to what is done in the Purvaranga, Dhruvayam Samprayuktayam Patech Aiva Apakarshite. If you remember, yesterday when we went into all the details of Purvaranga, then we talked about how Purvaranga is divided into two. Those activities which are done behind the curtain while the curtain is held on the stage, right? And then the activities which are done when the curtain has been flicked aside. So he says, Pate cha aiva apakarshite dhruvayam samprayuktayam, that when the dhruvas have been sung, which we talked about yesterday, and when he has removed the curtain, then what happens? Then movement happens by the patras. So, Karya Pravesha Patranam Nana Artha Sambhavaha. Now he is going to talk about Sthanam tu Vaishwanavam Kritva Uttame Madhyame Tata Samunnatam Samam Chaiva Chaturasram Urastatha. So he goes on to describe what are the different kinds of postures and positions in the dancer's movement, which he goes on to take. And this 12th chapter describes the movement of the hands and feet of the dancer in relation to the music which is being played. If you remember, we talked yesterday about the different steps of Purvarang, in which different activities are performed one after another in relation to the various Dhruva songs which are sung. So he says that the character which appears at that point has to match those activities, and that is called the Gati Prachara as well.
In the Gati Prachara, actually the characters and
Yes. No, it is the Gati. Prachar is the movement of the actor. Now that of course will consist of charis, that will consist of mandalas. You understand? Because they described what is movement. Now they are describing whose movement. You see? This is how it is to be done. And this is how the movement is done in relation to dance, in relation to music.
even drama.
Well, this is the beginning of drama. Now the play has begun. You see, at the end of Purvarang, if you remember that the very first thing is done, which is called Arambha, which is the tuning. So you do it step by step. The musicians come, they sit down, they tune the instrument, then they play a composition, they finally attune the instruments, then they introduce a song, then they introduce something vocal. After vocal, they introduce the action. So it is at this point when the Abhinay begins that you have Gati Prachara of 12 kinds. As I said yesterday, this is all done in a sequence. The whole thing is put into a progressive manner. Now that is something which is not part of theatre today.
No, but it is now that the Sutradhar and the Vidushak comes for Trigata.
At the end of, yeah, but the Sutradhar and the Vidushak, they are patras.
So they also have a pattern of it.
पैटर्न ऑफ मूवी उनका गति प्रचार होगा, वहीं से तो बात कर रहे हैं.
प्रचार में
हाँ.
Sutradhar और
उनका सबसे पहले उनका होगा, फिर मेन एक्टर्स बाद में कैरेक्टर्स आएंगे.
सो कितने टाइप के मूवमेंट्स हैं नाट्यशास्त्र में?
नहीं, मूवमेंट्स तो अलग अलग चीज़ों की हैं. जैसे अभी आँख की इतनी मूवमेंट्स, चीख की इतनी मूवमेंट्स, तो अब ये अलग अलग पोर्शंस की मूवमेंट्स, फिर ये मूवमेंट्स अलग अलग पात्रों के द्वारा होंगी, ओकेजन्स पे होंगी, भाव और रस के अनुसार होंगी. अब इनकी गिनती तो खैर अगर करना हो तो कोई बैठ के करे, तो अब मुझे पता नहीं कितनी सैकड़ों मूवमेंट्स 400 होंगी या 600 होंगी, लेकिन मूवमेंट जो है यूनिफाइड है.
होंगे by an actor. तब आप actor कहलाएंगे. Then you are not allowed to enter the stage.
See, so you have to be trained in moving every part of your body in combination with other parts. That is Gati. But here Gati Prachar specifically means the movement of the actor. So this is the Gati Prachar as it is given in the 12th chapter. All right. The movement of the actor is according to what the actor has to depict. So, if it is an old man which is to be depicted, then the movement is different. Right?
Yes.
If it is a rich man, the movement is different. If it is a woman, the movement is different. So here, because you are talking of Patranam Gati Prachara, so it's a long list. First of all, Patranam Rang Pravesha Vidhi, how they are going to descend on the stage, enter on the stage. Then Pad Pat Vidhi, how they are going to stamp their feet. Then Gati and Lay, the movement will consist according to the lay, Drut lay, Madhya lay, Vilambit lay, or a combination of these. See? Then, whether it is a high social status character or a low social status character, then whether it is a divine creature or an earthly creature, then according to the mood, Rati, Shoka, Hasya, Shringar, Ityadi, then various other movements, how to move in water, how to move in air, then the movement of different creatures which are not human, how the snake, right, Pannagagati, how will a snake move, Ashwagati, Ashwayane Gati, how will a chariot move, right? So all these, then those adhamanam, those who are very low characters, then people who are not living in the city, social categories in terms of their social status, but more than that, whether they are urban or they are village or they are living in forest, So you have Shakarasya Gati, Pulinda's Gati. Then you have various animals. So it goes on to describe all these gatis. Then he also considers that sitting, a particular posture, is also a gati. When you are still,
Giving beautifully.
then it is also a gati. And therefore, asana vidhi. And what are the kinds of asana? When you are sleeping, how will you show that you are asleep? So if you have to depict that Vishnu is sleeping on the snake, Shayan, or the king is sleeping, or even an ordinary character is sleeping, or like a character is experiencing sleeplessness. So you would need, and what happens when you are in some kind of a disturbed state, chinta? What happens when you have fainted? How will you faint and fall on the stage? That also has to be done in an elegant and an appropriate manner.
उर्वशी फेंट होती है.
Yes, correct.
So you have to. और प्राचीन नाटकों में तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा फेंटिंग दिखाते हैं. Because you see, it's a European notion कि मर्द जो है वो रोता नहीं है, मर्द जो है वो फेंट नहीं होता है. अब इस नाटक में, यानी इस नाट्य में और इस सारे एस्थेटिक्स में जहाँ भाव का इतना प्राधान्य है, तो अगर मर्द भाव शून्य हो जाएंगे तो कुछ होगा ही नहीं. You see? So here they are very sensitive. The whole idea of the male being a sensitive person is the classical idea. So when the king hears that his wife Indumati has died, then Kalidas says that Vilalapa cha vashpa gadgatam. The king cried, he sobbed, he shed tears. And he says, why not? Abhitaptamayopi mardavam bhajate. Ka katha sharirinam. That even if you heat iron, it melts. Then what to talk of people who are made of panchabhutas, sharirinam. जिसके शरीर है, अगर वो नहीं पिघलेगा, जब लोहा पिघल जाता है तो शरीर वाला नहीं पिघलेगा.
स्वयं रामचंद्र विलाप करते जब सीता चली जाती.
सीता चली जाती. You know, suppressing your emotion like John Wayne, you know, tie, and then you know. Now this is another cultural choice and another way. All right, so they show various kinds of asanas, so many of them. And now I come to a more intricate chapter, the 13th chapter. You see, the classical stage was without any props. The props were minimal. They would show something like, maybe if they wanted to show an animal being chased, like in the first scene of Abhigyan Shakuntalam, then they may bring a paper mache deer. They may. Or they may show it by an actor. By an actor. You can do it by an actor. So, or an actress, whatever. But you could do it also by something made out of earth, etc. And the word for that was pusta. So perishable material, right?
You explained that.
Yes, you could do that. But for the bulk of it, the whole of it, it was a empty stage. If you wanted to depict a city, then you won't show a curtain with houses as a backdrop or something. You see, this whole idea of realistic representation, this comes in the 19th century in Europe. शेक्सपियर के स्टेज पर ऐसा कुछ नहीं था. वो रोम की बात हो रही है, टाइबर नदी की बात हो रही है, जूलियस सीजर खड़ा है,
डायलॉग भी हो जाता था.
वो सब उस डायलॉग में हो रहा है.
और
You see?
यहाँ अभिनय, दृश्य अभिनय.
सब उसी में हो रहा है. सो शेक्सपियर स्टेज वॉज ए बैरन स्टेज. देयर वाज नथिंग लाइक अ stage prop or a stage support. The ancient Greek stage, similarly, they may show by certain cubes and certain other things by minimal locations, but it was only through song and music and dance and gesture that the places were represented. So here also they were going to talk about different parts of India. Dakshinapath, south, north, east, west. So if you are coming from the east, how will you show it on the stage? So they made certain conventions. And then they divided the stage into certain boxes, so to speak, or spaces, which were called kakshya. Now the 13th chapter is about kakshya vidhana. How will you go from north to south, from east to west? What would be the movement? What would be the convention? All these things were followed very strictly. At the point of entry, from which door? There were two doors. As yesterday when we discussed the Nepathya, we described them. So the character, which character will enter from which door? All these things were conventionalized, and it is through them that the actor represented who he is and from where he has come. So this was the Kakshya Vidhan, and the 13th chapter goes on to describe in detail, and if I were to kind of go deep into it, then I would need a whole screen to make the descriptions that, look, this is how it happens. It's not possible to explain verbally. But I will, in this Trayodash Adhyaya, I will talk about something which is very significant and which is very commonly discussed in theatre representation, which is Lokadharmi and Natyadharmi. Because here it is the concept of Lokadharmi and Natyadharmi which is enunciated. There is another extremely important concept about which we talked yesterday in the context of Tandava Lakshana. That is, by and large, there were two kinds of productions. Sukumar productions and Avidha. So the idea prayogasya dvaividhyam. He says that performance is of two kinds. I observed that, look, all plays can be divided into two categories world over and of all times. Love plays or war plays. So either there is romance or there is war, love and war. These are the two main categories. So here again he says that Sukumar, where you have delicate emotions, delicate representations, ornamentations, kaishiki vritti, soft music, appropriate characters, and the story of romance, amorousness, love, etc. All that is Sukumara Prayoga. And that which depicts fight, that is Avidha. So he says these are the two kinds of Avidha and Sukumar. These are the two kinds of Prayogas which are present here on the stage and all the plays. Later on, when we go to the 18th chapter, which we may today, because I'm going by bullet train speed today. So, there we will talk about the 10 genres. The Greeks had 3 main genres: tragadoi, tragedy; commedia, which is comedy; and satyricon, which is satire. So, the tradition of Europe also banked upon these 3 or combinations of these 3, right? In India, they developed 10 kind of genres, and we'll discuss. Those 10 genres also can be divided into 2 categories: Avidha and Sukumar. So the romantic plays, Natak and Prahasan comes to the another category. They cannot be called as a Sukumara Prayog because most of the Prahasanas were very wicked. You see, they were not delicate or gentle.
Will you please give us the 10 names now?
No. Please. We'll do that in the 18th chapter. So, yeah. But I want to connect and tell you how the Sukumar and the Avidha is connected with those 10 plays. See? They will be divided. So wherever for the moment, just remember that those connected with romance, with softer emotion, with affection, they will be Sukumar. Sukumar may not essentially be just romantic, man-woman relationship. A Sukumara Prayog can also have many other relationships, depicted depending upon what is the Prayog and how it is done.
सुदामा कृष्ण उदाहरण के तौर पे
हाँ जी, सुदामा प्रसंग, हाँ, तो ये सुकुमार प्रयोग है या आविद्ध प्रयोग है? तो ये सुकुमार है क्योंकि इसमें सॉफ्टनेस है, इसमें उनका प्रेम है, सेंसिटिविटी है, राइट, शी इज यूज द करेक्ट वर्ड, सेंसिटिविटी है, भाव प्रवणता है, मित्रता, मित्र क्या होता है, ये सब दिखा रहे हैं। तो ये सुकुमार प्रयोग होगा। और वो फिर कृष्ण का दूसरा रूप भी है, अगर वो क्या कहते हैं कंस का उद्धार करेंगे, हाँ, वो मतलब हम नहीं कहते ना कंस का को मारेंगे, हम कहते हैं कंस का कल्याण करेंगे उद्धार करेंगे, ठीक है, बिकॉज मोक्ष तो मिलेगी ना कंस को, वो लूसीफर तो है नहीं कि वो परपेचुअली फॉर ऑल इटर्निटी हेल में रहेगा, तो इसलिए उसका कल्याण होगा, वो जाएगा, स्वर्ग जाएगा, भगवान के हाथों मरा है। नाउ दे टॉक अबाउट धर्म्याः द्वैविध्यम। If you remember early when we said that these are the essential 11 aspects of drama, rasa bhava hi abhinayah dharmi vritti pravrittaya dharmi. So dharmi is of 2 kinds, lok dharmi and natya dharmi.
It is discussed in 13th chapter.
हाँ जी, ये 13 चैप्टर में है, हम 13 चैप्टर के अंदर ही धर्मी का विश्लेषण अब कर रहे हैं, और ये बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट है इसलिए कि इसके बारे में बड़े बड़े विद्वानों ने देश के, मतभेद नहीं है, अज्ञान है there is so much confusion because people just don't say. Yeah, so let us get into a vision of what is really.
आपके धर्मी करते करते अचानक लोग धर्मी कर लेते उसी के अंदर, क्योंकि समझ नहीं कैसे डील करना।
Now this is also the adhyaya where he talks about pravritti. Let me very briefly talk about pravritti. What is pravritti? Dharmi vritti pravrittayah. So pravritti is a little interesting thing. So let's do it. पुनश्चैव प्रवक्षयामि प्रवृत्तीनां तु लक्षणं चतुर्विधां प्रवृत्तिश्च प्रोक्ता नाट्य योगतः. There are 4 pravrittis.
So dharmi and pravritti.
No, please, dharmi is different. I will come to dharmi. Dharmi is 2 kinds, loka dharmi and natya dharmi. because I have to deal with it in some depth, so I'll take it up a little later. But let me just define Pravritti, because that is also in the 13th chapter. That way we will complete the essential things in the. He says that there are 4 Pravrittis: Avanti, Dakshinatya, Panchali, and Urdhra Magadhi. Avanti, Dakshinatya, Panchali, and Urdhra Magadhi. Today I don't have the time, but Farrukha, now all this is called Panchala Pradesh. The most dangerous people in India, they are Panchalas. So this is Panchala Pradesh. And let me give you the spelling, Ritaji, let me give you the spelling: Udra Udra Magadhi, and you can put a dot underneath D to make it Dra. Okay. Dakshinatya. Dakshinatya means southern. When you cross the Vindhyachal, then whatever is the region of India, that is Dakshinatya, right? Not just Tamil Nadu. Today very often we say Madrasi. So that's not. Avanti. So this is largely Madhya Pradesh, and then these are the 4 vrittis, pravrittis. You can ask a question: why is he not named Kashmir, and why is he not named Punjab, and why has he not named Gujarat, etc. So, well, the very simple, these are the 4 trends also of production. You see, he's talking in the context of an art. This is a classification in the context of styles of production. And therefore, these are the 4 names. It's not as if he is giving you a geographic description of the whole of India. Later on, when we come to the 17th chapter, then in the context of languages, he will talk about all these other regions. And there the relevance is in terms of language, because every region of India has a language, and he will talk about the languages of India. But this is, now what he says, atraha pravritti iti kasmat. How does the pravritti arise? Uchyate, it is said, prithivyam ananadesha vesha bhashachar vartaha prakhyapayati iti vrittihi. Now that which elaborates, presents to you Nana Desh Vesh Bhasha Achar Varta, that from different parts of India, different parts of regions of India, it shows the Vesh, dress, Bhasha, language, Achar, conduct, mannerisms, Varta, way of dealing. Varta here does not mean speech, it means dealings. Varta is business or dealings. Prakhyapayati, which elaborates and shows us, that is vritti. Actually, it should be pravritti, it's a misprint here. Prakhyapayati iti pravritti. It should, there's a misprint here. Pravrittishcha nivedane. And when it is presented, atraha yatha. Prithivyam bahivo desha santi. Just as there are so many regions on earth. Kadham asam tu chaturvidhitvam utpanna. So he takes the question, why are you saying only 4? There are so many regions in this country. Samana lakshana asam prayoga uchyate. So he says that I have generalized into 4. I have reduced them to the 4. Samana lakshana asam prayoga. Kintu nana desha vesha bhasha charo loka iti kritva lokanumatena vrittischa sansritasya natyasya vrittinam maya chaturvidhitvam abhitam Bharati Satvi Kaishikya Arabhati cha iti. Vritti, then he says, I have now made into 4. We'll talk about the Vritti in the Vritti Adhyaya. Right. Now, what is Dakshinapatha? Mahendro Malayaha Sadyo Mekalaha Palmanjara Eteshu Ye Shritadesha Sageyo Dakshinapatha. They said, what is Dakshinapath? So he gives the geographic descriptions of these places. Now, these are the names. Tomorrow I will try to bring a map and project it, and there it is written which is Kosal, which is Vatsa, which is Panchanad, and you will see the map of ancient India. I will also show you the Mahabharata region map. I do have it in my pocket, but it will take a little time to, show. तो आपको मैं कल उसको निकाल के आपको दिखाऊंगा. So he says, he names all these things, that these are the region: Koshal, Toshal, Mosal, Yavana, Khasa, Dravida, Andhra, Maharashtra, Vaishna, Vanavasaj, those who live in the forest tribes, Dakshina Samudrasya, Vindhasya cha Antare, Ye Deshaha stu Teshu Yunjita Dakshinatya Trunityasha. Then he talks about Avanti, Videshika, Saurashtra, Malev, etc., etc. So here you have a whole list of the regions of India. So Natya Shastra is very descriptive about various parts of India and what the people in those parts do. So it has an extremely accurate understanding of the people of India in detail.
Is that for the characterization that stage पे कौन कहाँ का है?
वो उसी हिसाब से होगा, इसीलिए ये सब बता रहे हैं.
प्रवृत्ति के हिसाब से,
प्रवृत्ति के हिसाब से और उसी के हिसाब से वृत्ति होगी और वो जियोग्राफिक डिस्क्रिप्शन होगा. You see, very often, I mean, I have seen very famous people lecturing particularly in Europe and America and England, and they said, no, ancient theatre was harem theatre. It was meant for royal people. Very famous people, I don't want to take their names, but very famous people just go and say that they give the impression that the royal folks, they invited some people, they had a little show and an entertainment, and that was the feudalistic theatre of ancient India. But when you read Natya Shastra, an entirely different picture emerges. Because this is not a theatre of a region. Unfortunate thing is that the modern Indian is unable to understand it, because today now in India we have Marathi theatre, Bangla theatre, Tamil theatre, Punjabi theatre, Hindi theatre, something called English theatre in different pockets of metropolitan cities. So things which existed once upon a time have disappeared. We don't know about them because we have not studied our text. Once you study our text, then you will see them for yourself. I didn't know about them till I started reading the text, analyzing the text, putting it together. And I was taught all this by a sannyasi living 25 miles away from Baroda in the countryside in some village, Swami Kripalu Anand, who initiated me into Natya Shastra. And he said, okay, now let's read the text. So it is the reading of the material, epigraphic material, textual material, that really gives you an idea of history. It is not the books of eminent historians which give us the idea. Now,
I have a question. May I ask a question?
sir, please.
Our country has had a large rural population for centuries.
A large
Rural population.
rural population.
Villages.
Yes.
So when we see the kind of theatre being presented today in a village like this, I saw Ramlila recently. It's rather primitive in terms of how it is presented. Now, do you think 500 years ago we had better ways of presenting it? There were more organization, social organization, community organization, where better masks, better clothes, better ways of rendering it. How is it possible that we could have a very sophisticated theatre in a very rural population?
The whole of Natya Shastra was enacted not in cities, in villages as well. Even today, I mean, where do you have Kalairapattu? Where do you have Kudiyattam? It is in villages. You see, this present day, I mean, I'm very glad that you asked this question, because the very question gives an idea of our present day situation, in which we cannot imagine what India was like, let's say even 500 years ago, let alone 2,500 years ago, when this text had already been compiled. Now, urban theatre and rural theatre, this is a distinction which comes with industrialization. And this happens in Europe. In India, as far as theatre is concerned, there was no such distinction. Yes, there was this practical distinction in many other things, because there were cities and they will be there for city people, and there is a Nagar and the category of Nagar described in Kamashastra, etc. But for theatre, this is not so. Theatre was all pervading, and it was done in all places and of different kinds. As for sophistication, theatre is an art which has been lost in India for almost 900 years, 8 to 900 years. And what we have are certain remnants of it. So some things survive in temples, so you have what you now call the Devadasi dance. Something survives in what you call now the folk forms, Kalairapattu, Kudiyattam, Kathakali, Bhavai, Bhopa Nritya, etc., etc., all over Gotipua and in Bhand and Swang and all these kinds of forms. Because these are now this thing, urban and non-urban, this comes into existence from 13th century onwards. Why? Because theatre could not be performed in cities anymore. Islam did not allow it. Islam made it permissible for the ruling class to patronize music and painting in their precincts. But theatre is not an art which can be a harem art. You see this famous book by Indu Shekhar on Indian theatre, है ना? बहुत मशहूर किताब है साहब. It makes this whole distinction. I think the man never read Natya Shastra. He wrote a whole book. It's a very big book, very famous.
Few people have read. Everybody is exposed to Natya Shastra by very limited translation in English.
Exactly.
Then actually if somebody asks me which book should I refer to, I don't know what to answer, because
Exactly.
there isn't a single book written, no matter how well known it is, which gives the correct picture of Natya Shastra.
I beg to
People have
differ.
translated according to their own wish.
I beg to differ. My book does that.
Yeah.
My book gives a total, extensive, wholesome picture of not only Indian theatre, also Greek theatre, and compares the two. So, theatre was not an urban art or just a rural art, and this distinction that This is rural. This is urban, did not exist. And this was also true not just for theatre. It was true for almost every subject. You see, the scholars lived not just in cities. Today we think that universities and colleges and centers of learning would be in cities only. Urban culture is culture and rural culture is semi-culture. So this is a product of the Industrial Revolution in Europe and then the following up of the industrialization in the rest of the world. But if you go into the Indian world specifically, before the arrival of industrialization in India, you see a different picture. Maithili Sharan Gupta, the great Hindi poet, and his brothers, they all lived in villages all their life. Maybe he came to the city twice or thrice to receive an award or something. Otherwise, the great artists, the poets, the writers, the philosophers, they all lived in very small places. And then there was a constant flow and travel. They went right across the countries and there were systems of travel. There were systems of exchanging manuscripts, providing manuscripts, transmitting them. And there were educational institutions not just in cities or not just in very big universities like Nalanda, Udantashila, etc., but in small agraharas also all over the country. So there were multiple kinds of venues where the artist, the creator, the writer, the scientist survived. And it had multiple patrons. अब तो संगीत नाटक एकेडमी है वरना बेचारे क्या करेंगे. महेश शर्मा ही एक है मिनिस्टर ऑफ कल्चर जिसके पास सब जा रहे हैं. Now see, this is a very different world in which we are living today.
I would like to add, sir, that between 13th and 15th century theatre, like you mentioned, was very sophisticated in terms of literature, in terms of...
Which century was sophisticated?
During the Vijayanagar period and also in Tanjavur during the...
Now that of course is true of various periods, various empires and... Yes, but what the submission I'd like to make, madam, is that no matter what empire it was, no matter what period it was in India, the system was that the scholars, the writers, the poets and all these people just did not live in the cities.
That is what he meant, rural theatre. Was it sophisticated?
Now, yes, it was, because sophistication is a matter of application of mind. And
these yakshaganas were all enacted in little, small
all the time.
hamlets in a very sophisticated way. The most sophisticated literature could be seen in this yakshagana.
You see, modern Ram Leela,
Others were very well-known scholars who narrate offhand the shlokas and the Vedas and the music that they knew.
People, because Natsha says Uttama, Madhyama and Adham. These are the three categories of Natya. There is useless production, there is passable production, and then there is sophisticated production. So he makes this distinction, and always these things have been there and will be there. But the setup which we see today, so when you see Ram Leela, and then naturally you will ask the question that, is this tradition, this botched up, semi-amateurish and nearly vulgar kind of a production, should we call it?
Costumes and makeup, it is exactly copying the film, Indian cinema.
Right.
Hindi formula cinema.
Oh, yes. So
Ram Leela, the very origin or the very organic thing about Ram Leela actors then, they would grow up with it. The children were taught about Ram Leela and how they would enact the Ram Leela. It took them years by the time they came to the stage. But today I don't think youngsters are doing that.
yeah, therefore they cannot be good actors.
They come and do it.
Yeah, they cannot be, they are kind of semi-professionals today. So, we go ahead. Thank you for asking the question because that sheds an important light. Now we come to the concept of dharmi. So he says, Dharmi ya dvividha prokta maya purva dvijottama laukiki natya dharmi cha tayor vakshayami lakshana. So he says there is lokadharmi and there is natya dharmi. And what is it? Swabhava bhavopagatam shuddham to avvikritam tatha lokvarta kriyopetam Angalila Vivarjitam.
Angalila Vivarjitam.
Angalila Vivarjitam. Swabhav Abhinayopetam Nana Purusha Nana Stri Purushashrayam Yad Idrisham Bhaved Natyam Lokadharmi Tusasmrita. Now the Lokadharmi Natya is something which Swabhav Abhinayo Petam. Something which is according to Swabhava. That is something which is seen ordinarily and in the world, which is Swabhava. The way people behave, the way people are. It is the bhava of the people. By people it does not mean a class. Swabhava. In other words, I am sitting here, I go and up to Rita ji and talk to her. The way I walk would be a particular, simple, natural, swabhavik way of walking. But if I go there, doing a couple of the charis which she showed me. No, I can't do it, but I'm just giving you an illustration. Then, the first is Lokdharmi. And the second is Natya.
The stylized activity is a Natya.
Now we'll go deeper into it because both are needed, both are essential. You see, if she is just sitting here and I am whispering something into her ear, that is Lokdharmi. If in a play I am doing this and I am speaking loud enough so that the people at the back of the room can hear me, but still I put my hand like this, then that is Natya Dharma. So something which is seen all the time in the world,
Natural.
yes, that in loka, that is Lokadharmi. Something which is seen in theatre hall, Rangamancha, Rangasthala, only. So all those charis are seen only on the stage. This is the fundamental difference. But where does the misunderstanding begin? Loka today means this world only. But for the ancients, there was a Devalok also. There was a Patal Lok also. They believed, rightly or wrongly, that somebody inhabits Devalok, that Devatas do exist, they come, they talk, they beget children and human beings. Something which the Greeks also believed. And similarly, the Danavas who live underneath, in the underworld, Patala, they also have a Loka. The Loka of Raja Bali, where he has gone. The Lok for the Greeks of Persephone, you know, who went underworld. And it was the underworld was called Hades, Hades, as you say it in English. So the Indo-European people, they believed in the upper world, the middle world and the lower world, Devalok, Martyalok and Patalaloka. So Lokadharmi will therefore means lokas of all three kinds. So if you have to show a devata, how will you show? On stage. Is showing devata on the stage Lokadharmi or Natyadharmi? I don't see a devata every day.
So what is the natural gate of a devata?
Huh?
What is the natural gate of a devata?
हाँ.
Stylized we can imagine.
So एक लक्षण तो ये होगा कि देवता पलक नहीं झपकते हैं. तो आप स्टेज पे ये दिखाएंगे. The actor has to show that the eyes are open.
Yes.
He is not winking.
Is there a distinction between the language that is spoken by the people, colloquial language?
We'll come to that, sir. Sir, we'll come. We'll come to that in 17th chapter. Yeah, we'll come to that. There's a very big detail given. Indian theatre was multilingual theatre, huge variety. Now, if I am to show a Danava, then how will I show? I will have to show there something which I don't see in my Martyalok.
Slightly stylized.
So there, that representation would be Natyadharmi, yet it would be considered a Lokadharmi. This is regarding physical appearances. Now, unfortunately, what happened is that the word Loka has come to mean folk. So, folk dharmi. अब वो फोक धर्मी का ज़माना है. NSD में अब मैं लोगों को सर फोड़ता रहता हूँ कि भैया ये फोक धर्मी लोक धर्मी नहीं होती. वो कहते नहीं साहब होती है. सारे जर्मन एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट, अमेरिकन एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट और इंडियन लोग दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी के, JNU के, इलाहाबाद के फोर्ड फाउंडेशन की ग्रांट लेकर एंथ्रोपोलॉजी पढ़कर वो कहते हैं देयर इज़ द फोक, देयर इज़ द अर्बन. And if you represent the rural, if you represent that which is in the village or in the tribes or in the Adivasis, then it is Lokadharmi. So, folk, because the word Volk in German, you know, in English it comes as folk. And it is an anthropological category that they divided people into the urban people of Europe living after industrial revolution, the people who were called elite, who were ruling classes, who listened to classical music, you know, orchestra of 80 people, Beethoven and Mozart and all that. They listen to this kind of music, they dress this way, they never shaked their ass, sorry, they never danced. These are the elite, stiff upper lip people, right? And then there are people, you know, who get drunk and who come from villages, who are uncouth and who drink hot beer and that kind of a thing. They are folk. So when this anthropological distinction was made in Europe, it was transferred to the cultures and civilizations of Asia and Africa. So here we have this distinction of urban and folk, elite and common, right? And then this category gets translated in the context of Natya Shastra as Lokadharmi is Folkadharmi. But this is not what Bharat Muni means. He means Swabhavopetam. Whether it is in the forest, whether it is in the royal court, whether it is in the ashram of a rishi, or it is in the house of a great courtesan, wherever it may be. If it is swabhavopetam, but when it is done with angalila, why? Because there you have to exaggerate in order to show shringara. Or maybe even anger. वो सारी चारियां लड़ाई में तो होंगी ना, तब भी तो आप, मतलब मैं गति प्रचार, कई प्रकार के गति प्रचार में इनसे मिलने जा सकता हूँ ना, मंडलों में भी जा सकता हूँ. So what I mean is that swabhavopetam is one, and something which is artistically created in order to highlight a certain emotion and effect and create an art form is another. That is Natya Dharmi. Broadly speaking, what happens only in the theatre hall is Natya Dharmi, because it is in Natya. It is the dharma of Natya. What is the meaning of dharma? That which sustains. Dharayate iti dharma. So that which sustains Natya is Natya Dharmi. And that which sustains loka, all those motions, swabhava, is loka dharma. Now,
We have two kinds of distinction. We have natural acting, and then
thank you, sir, for raising this question. Now, the problem comes. This is again a problem of European origin. There was a certain style of acting till 18th century, 18th or even till 19th century. Then they developed a style. I don't want to go into the detail of who developed and who were the, progenitors of this and the theorists. They said, we are going to show the world as it is. That was naturalism. So naturalism comes into theatre. In Shakespeare's time, there was no naturalism. In sooth, I know not why I am so sad. That's how they will speak. But in natural, it will be just as if you are talking in a room. So this whole naturalism developed around 18th, 19th century. It's a very complex phenomena, because there were things which were developing in painting. Basically, a whole vision had developed from 16th, 17th century through natural sciences as to what is nature and definitions of nature. And so naturalism and realism, they take over the European stage in 18th century, 19th century, and it's a kind of a movement which goes on and on. So by the time you come to the middle of 20th century, or even a little earlier, like George Bernard Shaw and Ibsen and all these great producers, you have complete realism. So you have a huge set, So if the play opens, then if they want to show somebody's study, then they'll have 500 books there, real books, and everything would be like it is. They bring the world from outside and put it on the stage.
So set is most important also.
The set, that's a part of realism. That is part of realistic acting, realism. So you will wear the clothes which you wear in everyday life. You will try to enact Shakespeare in your trousers and half shirts. And so this is a whole movement which started, a style of theatric representation. And hence, they said this is Lokadharmi. And therefore, even great scholars like V. Raghavan or Kapila Vatsyayan, they have translated Lokadharmi as realism. But for Bharat Muni, that is not realism. Because realism is not Lokadharmi. Swabhavopetam. How people in different places behave. Now that is not to be done by just taking a slice of life and putting it on stage. You see, that is a different aesthetics which is growing under various influences, as I said. And then when the film comes in, it gives you perfect realism. Then the reaction to realism starts in Europe. 1935, on Anton in Artaud, he sees Balinese theatre and he says, this is theatre. All this hogwash which I have been seeing is not theatre. So he writes the great book called Theatre of Cruelty, where he breaks through the concepts of realism, where strong emotional expression, even if it is in Raudra, in killing, and that's why the theatre of cruelty is depicted as actual theatre. So the mind changes, the movement changes. It's a breakthrough in theatre. It doesn't go very far till 1965-70, when there is a great impact of Indian arts in Europe and America. Then you have all these people, Richard Schechner, Eugenio Parpa, Grotowski, etc. People come here.
Peter Brook.
Peter Brook, all these, you see.
Also, great influence of cinema on the acting in theatre.
No, cinema promotes realism, but then it brings realism to its apex. So, realistic stage becomes irrelevant. It's better to see a film of, let us say, George Bernard Shaw's play Arms and the Man instead of seeing a theatre production. वहाँ ज़्यादा अच्छा लगेगा आपको, ये more real है सिनेमा में बजाय थिएटर में.
Shall we go through the other things now?
No, we will, madam. But you see, it's very important to explain how Lokadharmi and Natyadharmi become distorted words today in India because of the superimposition of the European experience. So, all this translation of Lokadharmi as realism is wrong. Because that does not mean that they are trying to depict a man from the village as Lokadharmi or even a king. You see, if you are depicting the king as it is, which will be described in coming chapters, then that is Lokadharmi. But when the king acts in a manner which is seen only in theatre, then that is Natyadharmi. Now, one thing more I'll add about Lokadharmi and Natyadharmi, which Abhinav Gupta mentions, which is very crucial. He says that there are certain stories which are prevalent in Loka, in the world, among the people. People know it, they are common stories. But after a while, somebody improvises on that story, creates a new story in theatre, which is a Natyadharmi story, which becomes very popular, and then that becomes Lokdharmi. An example, classic example, the story of Shakuntala in Mahabharata is of one kind. The character of Shakuntala is of one kind. Till Kalidas comes and writes his Abhigyan Shakuntalam, that was the Lokadharmi story. Because that's what people knew. But today nobody knows the Mahabharata Shakuntala. Because Kalidas created Shakuntala, that was, when Kalidas created, it was Natya Dharmi. It was his own creation. And it happened in a Natya Graha. It was not in Lok at that time. That Shakuntala of Kalidas was only in theatre. Over a period of time, the Shakuntala which is in Lok is Kalidas Shakuntala. व्यास महाराज ने क्या लिखा, कौन सी शकुंतला बनाई, वो कुछ 2-4 लोगों को पता है. So लोक धर्मी also gets transformed into Natya Dharmi and back into Lok Dharmi. And this is what happens in theatre also. He goes on to explain that according to certain appropriateness, a character would appear and act as Lok Dharmi. Now, I'll give you a modern example which is just an illustration. What happens in a Hindi film? Things are going fine. All of a sudden they get up and there is a dance sequence. और डांस सीक्वेंस फिल्म में ही तो होती है ना, लाइफ में तो नहीं होती है.
A dream, so that the heroine wears better costumes. And the hero wears better costumes.
So this is an example. And Indian films today cannot survive without that Natya Dharmi. And it's not only the people of India, the people of Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, right up to Greece, they all want that to see in Indian films, and they think that that is the unique quality of Indian films. So this principle of Lok Dharmi and Natya Dharmi is to be seen in this context and is to be seen as a principle of creation of different states of expression, different kinds of acting, different kinds of genres. Because if you are going to produce Abhigyan Shakuntalam, then you will have lots of Natya Dharmi in it. उसके बिना मज़ा नहीं आएगा. जब रोमांस है, जितने एक्शन होंगे, वो गाना होगा, म्यूज़िक होगा, उसी के हिसाब से सारी चेष्टाएं होंगी, उसी के हिसाब से सारी मूवमेंट होगी. फिर ये सारे ही काम करेंगे आप, जितने भी पुट कर्म हैं, अधर कर्म हैं, गंड कर्म हैं, ये सब ऐसे के ऐसे ही होंगे, तभी आपको मज़ा आए. And the general tenor of a nataka, the form of natak as in ancient times, or even of a what is that next term, Michakatikam kya hai? No, what is the category of Mrichakatikam? Huh? No, Prakarana, yes. The Prakarana, Natak and Prakarana. So, Mrichakatikam is a Prakarana. So, the Prakarana also will have all those refined movements because it's a romantic play. But a Prahasan will not have that because there you do not want to show it in Kaishiki Vritti. Now, we will go into what are the 4 kinds of Vrittis, etc. a little later. But the creation of Natya Dharmi is according to Vritti Bhed. Yatha tatha Vritti Bhedai Dashurupa Bhavantihi. That the forms, the genres are constructed according to the 4 Vrittis. So this is about Natya Dharmi, and that ends our 13th chapter, and we move on now to the 14th chapter. हाँ 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 पूछिए सर. भी हाँ, जैसे अब आपको प्रैक्टिकल उदाहरण देता हूँ. दिलीप कुमार की भी एक एक्टिंग है, हाँ, राजेश खन्ना की भी एक एक्टिंग है. तो दिलीप कुमार की एक्टिंग जो है उसमें हर चीज़ को टोन डाउन किया गया है. दैट इज मोर लाइफ लाइक, स्वभावोपेतम. राजेश खन्ना की में उसको एग्जैजरेट किया गया. अगर आप वो सौराब मोदी पे पहुंचेंगे तो वो और भी होगी ब्रॉड एक्टिंग. हाँ, तो ये सारी चीज़ें कंपैरिजन में हैं. और फिर ये सारी चीज़ें अकॉर्डिंग टू रीजन्स, अकॉर्डिंग टू प्लेसेस, अकॉर्डिंग टू स्टाइल. अब टेक फॉर इंस्टेंस ग्रीक थिएटर, वहाँ लोक धर्मी हो ही नहीं सकती. देयर इज नथिंग कॉल्ड लोक धर्मी इन ग्रीक थिएटर. ग्रीक थिएटर इज 100% नाट्य धर्मी. बिकॉज या कुडियाट्टम में लोक धर्मी क्या है? कुछ नहीं है. सर्वथा 100%.
larger than life.
It is something which is seen only on the stage. आप समझे ना? अगर मैं चोटी पहन के यहाँ बैठ जाऊँ तो आप कहेंगे आप नाचने आए हो या डिस्कशन करने आए हो. So this thing operates according to time and place and genre of production and the region of production. नाट्यशास्त्र provides for all this. क्योंकि नाट्यशास्त्र में 10 genres हैं, उसमें प्रहसन भी है, उसमें वीथी भी है जहाँ सिर्फ चुटकुले सुनाए जाते हैं, प्रहेलिकाएँ और इस तरह की चीज़ें होती हैं, पहेलियाँ जिसको आप पहेली कहते हैं, उसका भांड भी है, सोलो परफॉर्मेंस है. सो बिकॉज देयर वाज सच ए ट्रेमेंडस वैरायटी, and then it's according to culture. As I said, in Greek theatre, the whole of Greek theatre, whether it is a satyricon, whether it is a comedy, whether it is a tragedy, it was totally natyadharmi, because the whole thing was larger than life, and it was, I would say, it was something which was an artifact. वो क्रिएशन है.
Prime example of this in the Western theatre is the opera.
Exactly.
It is completely
Exactly.
as far away from life as
Exactly. Now, in fact, I don't want to kind of get diverted, but then there is a whole history why in Europe theatre got divided into opera on one side and acting, stage acting on another side. उसका एक बहुत बड़ा इतिहास है, क्यों हुआ, कैसे हुआ. But whatever was नाट्य धर्मी, they threw it out and said बैले में होगा, opera में होगा. See, we have to understand these various distinctions.
What is your opinion of Lokadharmi and realism? Your opinion.
अभी तो बताया मैंने. I told you just now that realism is a European development according to certain notions of what is reality and how it should be represented on the stage. It is the great impact of natural sciences and the definition of nature which developed in Europe. And there were so many debates about it. What is nature? Although the debate on what is nature or physiki is as old as the Greek, but then they said that nature is something like this, which just depicts life as it is. Then there was a reaction against it. And the reaction first came not in theatre, it came in painting. So 19th century painting becomes unrealistic. Van Gogh है, pointillism है, expressionism है, painting unrealistic painting हो जाती है सबसे पहले. और throughout 20th century, now painters are unrealistic since 200 years in Europe. पेंटिंग में कहीं रियलिज्म नहीं है. जैसे फोटोग्राफ खींच लो भाई, क्या ज़रूरत है पेंट करने की. एंड ग्रेट European painters like Van Gogh and Picasso, totally unrealistic. And they were inspired, all of them were inspired by Eastern art. जो क्यूबिज्म है वो कहाँ से आता है? वो अफ्रीका से आता है ना. सो कॉल्ड प्रिमिटिव आर्ट को जब उन्होंने डिपिक्ट किया, एंड ऑल दीज होल लॉट ऑफ आर्टिस्ट, ऑल ओवर यूरोप फ्रॉम डिफरेंट नेशनैलिटीज. एनीवे, हाँ जी.
लेकिन लोक धार्मिकों में चरित्र के निर्माण में अगर मुझे संदर्भ में देखना हो आज
चरित्र निर्माण,
वो किस संदर्भ में देखूंगा? जैसे कि
नहीं, देखो, चरित्र निर्माण जो है वो एक मॉरल क्वेश्चन है. चरित्र निर्माण का मतलब कैरेक्टराइजेशन कह रहे हो आप? अच्छा.
स्टेज पे
हाँ मैम, अगर मुझे अभिनेता के तौर पे तैयारी करनी है तो एक स्टाइलाइज्ड एक अलग चीज़ हो गई, वो मैं समझ गया. लेकिन अगर मुझे रेफरेंस चाहिए लोग धर्मी के संदर्भ में पूछना चाह रहा हूँ, तो मुझे अभी तक कंफ्यूजन है.
नहीं, देखिए, द क्वेश्चन इज what is it that you want to depict and what is your script. Now, even in Kudiyattam, you refer to or represent a mountain, a river, the sun. These things are what they are. There can be no dispute about them. These are natural, swabhavopetam, realistic, everything. But when you represent them in Kudiyattam,
नहीं जा सकता है.
आप दूसरी तरह से करेंगे.
It has to be stylized.
इट हैज, वो नाट्यधर्मी होगा.
नहीं, ये जो पूछ रहे हैं,
हाँ.
इसके लिए और वेस्टर्न थियरीज में
तमः लक्षणम तस्य वक्षयामि स्वर व्यंजन संभवम. नाउ दे कम टू व्हाट इज कॉल्ड द वाक अभिनय.
डिस्कसिंग द वाचिक.
वाचिक, आंगिक को समाप्त करके अब वो वाचिक पर आ जाते हैं. और वाचिक के बारे में उनको क्या कहना है, ये फिर हम अब कल देख लेंगे. थैंक यू सो मच.